YouTube, what's good? So I was on Facebook, and I like to jump in and out of different Facebook groups and Facebook pages, and there's usually different discussions about relationships and the whole men versus women wars, um, where females all get together and bash men because we're all to blame for failed relationships and the reason why these women can't find suitable men. And so there was a post, and it was more of the same. And a couple of us men got together and started kind of commenting back and giving our perspective as to how we feel about always being at the wrong end of the gender bias when it comes to who's better or worse uh, when it comes to dating. And one of the commenters um, gave me an interesting idea which inspired me to do this vlog. His perspective, he was basically saying how um, from the time women are little girls and pretty much throughout their whole upbringing, they're basically told that men aren't shit, and they're perfect, is the word that he used, little princesses, and anything that happens for the most part, um, it's going to be our fault. And you know what? It is kind of true, because from an early age, little girls are told that men are all dogs, none of us are good for them, and you know it's our responsibility to pretty much track them down, marry them, and then treat them like queens. And if anything at any point in the relationship goes wrong, by default it's our fault. And as I look around this new social construct, it's pretty fucked up, but I have to admit it is kind of true. Um, I've been in countless situations, both firsthand experiences in my own past relationships, as well as in conversations where a lot of the women in this generation and in the last generation all really do feel like no matter what they do in a relationship, they're justified. If a woman cheats socially, rather than her being called a whore, rather than her being called slutty, it's usually thrown out there that, well, maybe she had a reason to do what she did. Maybe she wasn't happy in the relationship. Maybe her needs weren't being met. You've got all these articles, you've got all these books, these self proclaimed experts on all these different reasons why women do what they do and what they're lacking in the relationship. But nobody really to speak on behalf of men. Well, that is until I came along and decided to start this YouTube channel. And it's funny because for men like me, and I know that there are quite a bit of us out there, we encounter a lot of women who are not the epitome of what these women think they are. I know a lot of women who cheat in their relationships, who turn good men into assholes. I know a lot of women who go into relationships, they're not transparent, they're not truthful about their past, they're not truthful about the kind of person they are, they misrepresent themselves. Any of the same things that can be said about men, for every man you can find me who fits that quote unquote cookie cutter mold of player, bad boy type, unable to commit, all of those negative adjectives and whatever other pronouns get assigned to us. For every man you can find me that fits that mold, I can find you a woman who does too. It just seems that more excuses are made, and it's typically more understandable when women do it. Like, if a woman cheats in a long-term committed relationship and someone hears about it or you make mention of it, someone will typically say, oh, well, maybe she made a mistake, or, maybe you should give her a second chance. But when in the same circles, it's talked about that a guy did the same thing, it's, well, he's a dog. Well, men ain't shit. Well, men can't commit. Well, this or that. And it's really getting old. That's why it's my sole purpose with this channel, with other forums that I jump in and out of, with my Facebook group, with my Facebook page, as well as my next book that I'm going to be starting pretty soon, to really start to advocate for the countless number of good men out here who are loving, committed, good single fathers, because, of course, the only good parents are women, the only ones who get credit for the kids turning out the right way. And we're all deadbeats, and all we're ever good for is child support. And it's just a whole list of other things that give us as men a bad name. And I'm really getting tired of it. And I celebrate the men who take notice to when we're being male bashed and when we're not being given the credit that we deserve and when we're taking the blame for every failed relationship. Because here's the poor reality. Too many women, I'm not going to say all because I'm not going to play a part of this stereotype where one gender is better or worse than the other. So I'm going to say that too many women meet a typical guy, and if he's a good guy and they know he's a good guy, they don't want anything to do with him. They want the player type, the bad boy image having, unable to commit, might have a criminal record or whatever other things that might be appealing to them. And so they think it's a project. They think they can change him. I don't think too many men give misrepresentations of what kind of man they would be in a relationship when they meet women. I think for the most part, we're pretty straightforward. If we're looking for a committed relationship, for the most part, we'll communicate that. If we're not looking for that, then our actions will communicate that. But I think when women ignore the signs and ignore everything about that guy that she's dealing with that shows her he's not the type of guy to get into a relationship with, and they do it anyway, and then it turns out to be the case, then don't turn around and say all men are trash. Don't turn around and say all men are dogs. Because if you chose to ignore signs that that man clearly gave you in the beginning of the relationship, then whose fault really is it when that relationship doesn't turn out the way you want it to? Women are, for the most part, self-sabotaging, and they play as big a part as we do in the reason why the relationship dating pool is the way it is right now, and it looks like shit. There are women who are attracted to married men. There are women who have this long list of standards and qualifications that men must meet before we could even approach them. And it's not equal at all. I mean, there's not too many men who has, unless that man is at a stage in his life where he's ready to settle down and find a wife, we don't typically have requirements of women as far as you have to have a degree, you have to have this amount of money in your bank account, you have to make this amount of money every year, you have to have this type of job, drive this type of car. If you're aesthetically pleasing, because men are visual creatures, if you are cool to hang out with, and we can have you around our boys without feeling like there's going to be an issue, then we're pretty much good. I mean, we really don't have too many qualifying requirements. It's all about good vibes and good company. And my thing is, why can't it be the same on both sides? Why do I have to make a certain amount of money for you to consider whether or not I'd be good in a relationship? Why do I have to be a certain height or have a certain swag about me in order for you to consider whether or not you want to talk to me? I mean, if two equal parties on equal playing fields are getting together to get to know each other, then it should be about that person's personality, their goals in life, whatever aspirations they may have, wherever they see themselves in 5 or 10 years, whether or not they want to have kids or get married. That should really be the basis for how you decide who you're compatible with and not compatible with. All of that other shit, I mean, you hear there's movies about it, there's countless numbers of articles and books about it. Even Steve Harvey with his Think Like a Man book, which I really feel is antiquated and really just so far off base if you're talking about the men of today in 2016. We're not with all that shit, and all of us aren't players, and all of us aren't sport fishing and just looking to get into someone's pants. A lot of us are looking for a woman who is mature and has a good head on her shoulders. It's really only the young boys and mentality who just want to sleep with women and move on to the next one. I mean, that shit's been played out since the 90s. And I don't really know too many men who are looking for that. Most of us have children, or we've been in countless number of relationships and might not have good relationships with our kids' mothers or ex-wives or whatever the case. And we're sick of the games that a lot of women play now and all the social media shit. And we got to deal with the fact that a lot of you women are trying to be Instagram famous, trying to be Amber Rose, trying to be Instagram models. And we really just want to find a good, wholesome girl who knows how to cook, who would make a good wife. I mean, that's, in my opinion, it's approaching the majority of men that I see out here. I mean, we're struggling to find our way and to find a good life partner that we can build something with the same way women are. So stop male bashing. Stop blaming us for all the troubles of the world. A lot of you females have daddy issues unresolved. And because your kid's father left or because your father wasn't around, you peg all men as having these same commitment issues. And because you feel like we're going to leave anyway, you aren't emotionally attached enough to warrant any real connection in a relationship. You're not open minded enough to overlook the flaws that all men have, that all people have, enough to really build a genuine connection with us. And as long as you women are in your feelings, and as long as you women are on this pedestal that you all seem to have put yourselves on for the most part, we're never going to really be able to connect. And look, you can't do shit without us anyway. You can't have a kid without us. You can't generate the population without us. You can't be in a relationship by yourself. So unless you're all going to turn lesbian, which seems like that's the new upward trend now, unless you're all going to do it, stop male bashing. Because the same men, and I've seen it happen firsthand, the same men that you women talk shit about to your friends and post shit about on Facebook are the same men that you're smiling in their face, telling them you love them, laying next to them in bed. Look, it is what it is. Some relationships are good and some are bad. Some men are good for you, some women are good for you, and some men and women aren't. It's a person thing. It's not a gender thing. Stop bashing each other. Let's all get better at relating to one another and understanding each other better. And we'll all be better off for it. I don't pretend to know everything, but I do know a little about a little. I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.